Good evening. Before we get started tonight, we've got a couple of proclamations that we'd like to do. Kelly Hill, you here? Come on up. Every year we do this proclamation for scleroderma, and Kelly here has, I think, collected one or two over the years. We'd like to do another one because June is Scleroderma Awareness Month. It says, whereas scleroderma is a chronic connective tissue disease that affects a patient's immune system by becoming overactive and attacking its own tissues through an overproduction of collagen. And whereas the disease can develop and is found in every age group, but its onset is most frequently between the ages of 25 to 55, with approximately 15,000 Ohioans and 300,000 people in the United States being affected. And whereas scleroderma symptoms can range from a very mild to life-threatening and can cause thickening and tightening of the skin, as well as serious damage to internal organs, including the lungs, heart, kidney, esophagus, and gastrointestinal tract. And whereas prompt and proper diagnosis and treatment can minimize the symptoms of scleroderma and lessen the chance of irreversible damage, as there is no cure at this time. Whereas the Scleroderma Foundation mission is to support education and advanced research to help find the cause and cure for this disease. Now therefore, I, Don Adams, Mayor of the City of Beavercreek, along with the entire City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of June 2024 Scleroderma Awareness Month in the City of Beavercreek, and urge the citizens of Beavercreek to support the Scleroderma Foundation in its mission. Get that to you. Would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, Mayor Adams, and thank you to the City Council. It's always great seeing you guys. You supported me from the first day I stepped foot into this council meeting, and always paying it forward. I stay for the entire time because if you're going to wash my hands, I want to wash yours. So I really thank you and appreciate you for that. And there's a lot of people here. Yeah, this is a packed house, and as Mayor Adams said, my wife and I, we're here on our Scleroderma month journey, and it'll be 20 years. Can't believe it's been 20. It'll be 20 years on Christmas Day when my mother succumbed to scleroderma at the very young age of 52. And over the course of time, I said, I need to my mom always said, we're going to build a legacy. So I always wanted to make a tribute to her. And I started this journey in 2012, 2013 time frame. But scleroderma, as Mayor Adams said, means hard skin. And it can target your skin, but sometimes it targets your organs first. But ultimately, it hardens your skin and your organs. And it makes it difficult for your immune system to fight off attacks and to defend itself. And a shameless plug, my wife and I, we host a bowling event called Bowl for Scleroderma, always the last Saturday of the month, right over here at Beaverview Bowl. I'm looking at this bowling team here. It would probably be unfair to some of the participants of the bowling event over the past few years. But definitely just wanted to put it on your radar, and I see a lot of familiar faces here. But again, thank you to the City Council of Beavercreek. We've been Beavercreekians. Is Beavercreekians the right word, or is it Creekers? Which one is it? Since 2009. So once again, this is our home, and thank you for embracing us. And just once again, thanks again.
Sorry. Kelly is so humble, and he doesn't like to be in the spotlight, but I have to put him in the spotlight for a few seconds. Every year, the Scleroderma Foundation recognizes a volunteer, and for 2024, Kelly has been selected as the recipient of the National Scleroderma Foundation's Individual Fundraiser of the Year Award. So I just wanted to put that out there, just all the hard work that he's done, that we've done for scleroderma awareness. So his hard work is now being recognized over this 10-year period. So I just wanted to let everyone know that he is being recognized for that for the year 2024. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will be at the bowling
thank
tournament
you.
again, so it's good to see you. All right, now you may have noticed that we have kind of a large group sitting back here, and I'd like to ask them to come up here if they would. You also notice, if you looked when you came in, there's a sign over here that they've been on, not this particular, well, this particular team's on it twice now, but then they've gone 3 times. But this is a bowling team from Beavercreek High School. They are back-to-back state champions for the state of Ohio. So that's quite an accomplishment. So congratulations, guys. We have a proclamation for you. It says, whereas the Beavercreek High School boys bowling team, made up of Carson Schroyer, Grayson Arnold, Kyle King, Jacob, Justin, and Joshua Turpening, Nick Cologne, and Isaiah Durfinger had an amazing season. After a 13-3 regular season, and whereas winning the Southwest District Section Tournament, they're placing 4th at the district tournament, which qualified them for the state championship. And after eliminating their competitors, Beavercreek is the only Division I to achieve back-to-back Ohio State bowling championships. That's quite an honor. Whereas Beavercreek High School boys bowling team is led by coaches Bob Bobbitt and Willie Pettit. And whereas through dedication and hard work, we want to congratulate the team. Now, therefore, I, Don Adams, Mayor of the City of Beavercreek, along with the entire Beavercreek City Council, do hereby extend our congratulations to the Beavercreek High School boys bowling team on this accomplishment and express our best wishes for their continued success and recognition. I've got that for you guys, and I actually have one of these for each of you so that you can take that home with you. And the sign will be put out at the entrance to the city so that everyone knows that you've done that. So would you like to say it?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Council, too, for having us here tonight. I'm not going to make any promises. Last year we were here. I said that we were losing 2 fellows, and we were able to fill those spots pretty handily, I would say. And this year we're only losing 1 fellow. So, again, I'm not making any promises about 25, but we'll see what happens. But thank you again for the recognition. It's an incredibly talented group of young men here.
Introduce themselves.
Introduce yourself.
I'm Jacob Turpening.
I'm Grayson Arnold. I'm Kyle King.
I'm Carson Schroyer.
I'm Justin Turpening.
I'm Nick Alone.
I'm Isaiah Durflinger.
I'm Joshua Turpening.
I'd like to ask Joseph Jenkins, Shannon Graham, and then Zach, if you'd come up here too. About a month ago, you've probably read, is the mic working? About a month ago, you may have read in Facebook or wherever that we had some damage out at Rotary Park. Someone destroyed 3 restrooms, totally destroyed them. These 2 gentlemen right here stepped up and out of their own pocket paid for the materials and put it all back together as a service to the community. I'm a Rotarian with them, and the Rotarians say service above self, and I think they really did live up to that motto this time. So we want to give a certificate of appreciation to these 2, and also Zach will be collecting it for the Beavercreek Youth Softball Association because there was some damage to the concession stand, yeah, and they broke out some windows and they replaced those. But I'll just read the one. They are all basically the same. But this certificate is presented to Joseph A. Jenkins in recognition of his outstanding dedication and swift action in repairing the Beavercreek City Park's restrooms that were recently vandalized. His commitment to maintaining our community spaces exemplifies true civic responsibility and has ensured that our parks remain welcoming and safe for all residents and visitors. Joseph's hard work and dedication to our city is deeply appreciated. Thank you for your exceptional service. Now, therefore, I, Don Adams, Mayor of the City of Beavercreek, and the entire City Council, thank you for your service to the community.
So I think the only thing I want to say is the greatest gift you can give to your family and your friends is to help improve your community. I know, Joe, it's all about making a better place for your family. And we all have a couple hours in our week or a month or a year that we could help improve our community. I think it's important.
That's pretty much it. He topped it off. Yeah.
No, I just want to say thank you to Joe and Shannon and the Beavercreek Youth Softball Association for all of their efforts to help repair Rotary Park. Go without saying, the actions of a few can't dictate what our community is all about. We have a great Beavercreek community, and the support that we have is just incredible. We have some stand-up citizens, so thank you for all that you do.
Now, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Could I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Curran.
Here.
Councilmember Dewar.
Here.
Councilmember Garcia. Councilmember Literal.
Here.
Councilmember Schwartz.
Here.
Vice Mayor Bales.
Here.
Mayor Adams.
Here. Have a motion?
Motion to excuse Councilwoman Garcia.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to excuse Councilwoman Garcia. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Councilman Dewar, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. I'd like to ask the scouts to come forward and help me lead the Pledge of Allegiance, please, if you're willing. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. If you may remain standing for just a moment, I'd like to have a moment of silence. 5 years ago and one day, our community was hit with a torrid tornado, especially in the northern portion of the city. And as testament today, with Mr. Jenkins and Mr. Graham, among many others, the sense of community remains very, very strong. And Beavercreek rebuilt in the aftermath of something very, very difficult. The Garden View neighborhood in the very northwest of the city remains in some difficult areas with loss of trees, vegetation, etc. But a lot of people have rebuilt, and it's been just wonderful again to see that community spirit. So let's take a moment of silence to recognize that. Thank you.
We have an agenda before us. I understand there has some corrections that need to be made.
No, agenda's fine.
Oh, it's minutes. Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. We have an agenda before us.
Move to
And-
approve the agenda.
I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Now, minutes for April 15th, 2024 work session.
Move to approve the
Any-
minutes of April 15th.
Second.
Okay, Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes for the April 15th work session. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? April 22nd, 2024, regular meeting minutes. I think this is where we have a correction.
Yeah, I guess to council, I sent in, I think, 5 different amendments to just a few statements, things to consider if you'd like. Given it's in the packet with you, so you can been able to take a look at that. Considering the discussion around racetrack, we could also look to simply have a transcript of what was said that night rather than minutes. I think that could be another option. They'll do that anyway, so, okay. But if there's no opposition, I'll make a motion, Mayor, but I'll
To amend?
To amend, yes.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to amend the April 22nd regular meeting minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? And now,
Motion to approve as amended.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the amended agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Why do I keep saying that? I'm sorry. Excuse me. I'm looking at minutes and it says agenda. All right. All right, first up, public hearing, Turner PUD 23-5, specific site plan number 1.
Case number PUD 23-5, specific site plan number 1, an application filed by Grand Communities LLC, 3940 Olympic Boulevard, Suite 400, Erlanger, Kentucky, 41018. The applicant requests approval of a specific site plan to allow development of 96 single-family residential homes on 46.864 acres of land. The property is located on the north side of Swigert Road, approximately 800 feet east of the intersection of Swigert Road and Darst Road, further described as Book 3, page 24, Parcel 1 on the Greene County Property Tax Atlas.
Applicant presentation, yes, thank you.
No problem. My name is Sam Reese. I'm a land planner with Fisher Homes Grand Communities, and this is our specific site plan proposal for the Ellis Garden subdivision. So a little about us. We are a privately owned Cincinnati-based home builder founded in 1980. One of the things we pride ourselves in is maintaining high customer satisfaction and creating the best total new home experience for our customers. So looking at the context of the site, site consists of one parcel of just over 46 acres, is currently zoned residential PUD. It was originally zoned agricultural, but we did receive City Council approval on January 22nd of this year to rezone that property to residential PUD. The main entry for this proposed subdivision will be on Swigert Road, and there are a couple internal streets that will connect from the existing communities around the site. So our vision. One of the things we pride ourselves in is our community design and creating a sense of place for our communities and residents. We did this through our landscaping, amenities, as well as our theming. And with this proposed community in particular, we're leaning more towards a garden theme with our proposed community name being Ellis Garden. It's like a site plan, consists of 96 total home sites that are consistent with the approved zoning. This will feature a retention pond and fountain with the main entrance on Swigert Road, and will contain 4 internal access points to the surrounding communities. So looking at the specific site plan, again, 96 total home sites that are consistent with the approved zoning. And listed there are the specific density requirements and setback requirements that we're required to follow, which we did adhere to with this plan. And one of the comments that was also brought up at the May 1st Planning Commission meeting was from one of the property owners directly across from where our main entrance was, with concerns about headlights coming in and out, shining into their home. We did acknowledge that, and with this specific site plan, we did shift our main entrance further south to avoid the headlights from cars leaving to and from the community from shining into their home. And then looking at the specific product for this community. This is our designer collection. This is one of our single-family detached products. And this product in particular is geared more towards the move-up home buyer. On the left there, we showed some examples of the elevations for this specific product. And on the right there, we wanted to highlight which specific lots will have this product. And as you can see, with this community, this designer product will be more towards the center of the community, as well as along the lots that are around the main entrance. And then this is our masterpiece product. This is also one of our single-family detached product. This is a step up from our designer product. It is also one of our higher-end products. Some examples of the different elevations there on the left, and then highlighting the locations. This product in particular will be along the northern and western lots that abut the adjacent communities. And the next steps would be second reading at City Council. And thank you all so much for your time, and we're happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Staff?
For 1 second here. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. The case you have before you is PUD 23-5. It's Ella's Garden. It's been formerly known as the Turner property when it went through the rezoning, but this is the specific site plan stage of the PUD process. And as the applicant stated, they're looking to put 96 single-family units on about 46.9 acres. Projects located in southern Beavercreek along Swigert Road, just southwest of where Swigert Road does about a 90-degree turn. Wrong way. This is a larger close-up view of the property. It's got over 1,200 linear feet of frontage on Swigert Road and abuts single-family residential neighborhoods to the west and to the north and to the northeast. To the south and the southeast is outside the city. It's actually in Beavercreek Township. Again, and I went over this in the PUD, the rezoning stage, and I kind of want to go over it again. The PUD process is 2 steps. The first is being the rezoning, and that's where the specific uses are called out. Densities are called out. Any specific general conditions, such as the lot width and setbacks, things like that, are called out at the PUD rezoning phase. And then the second phase is the specific site plan phase, where we get an actual set of site plan with grading, with landscape architecture, with the architectural elevations, just to look at the lot layouts, how the road layouts, lot sizes, things like that. So that's where we're here this evening. Again, I know that there was some confusion at the Planning Commission meeting and coming into this meeting about the zoning phase versus the specific site plan phase. So back in January, when this rezoning was approved, there was the 60-foot minimum lot width were approved at that time. Section 158.071 in the zoning code, which is a portion of the RPUD section of the zoning code, does state that the minimum lot width for one family portions of PUD should be 60 feet. And so that's where that 60-foot came from. It also points out for the density within RPUD should match what is, or not exceed what is called out in the land use plan for that area. And this area on the land use plan is in yellow there. It's the low density single family residential, which the text in the land use plan states that it's should be less than 3.01 dwelling units an acre, or 3 dwelling units an acre or less. When the rezoning phase went through, the density at that time was established at 2.1 dwelling units an acre, which is below the the maximum they could have asked for for the low-density residential. And we come to the site plan phase, which is where we're at now, and that's where, again, we can review architecture, the streets, the grading, the drainage, and how that all affects the surrounding neighborhoods and how it works internally. And yes, lot sizes can be discussed at the site plan phase. City Council can require some adjustments of the proposed lot lines if there's a reason to do so. Just want to caution that any increase in lot sizes or changes of lot sizes, care should be taken not to set a requirement for lot sizes to go up, that it would conflict with what the density that they're allowed to have at 2-point dwelling units an acre, just so that we're not in conflict with that, because the 60-foot wide, the setbacks that were established in the maximum density of 2.1 dwelling units an acre, again, were set by legislation at the rezoning phase. I just wanted to go over a little bit of comparison of this property with recent single-family residential developments. For this property, the approved density was 2.1. The actual density came in at the proposed site plan was a little less, 2.05. The 60-foot minimum lot, that's been standard for Sky Crossing, Cedarbrook, Bridlewood that is coming up in the future, Amberwood, they're all 60-foot wide. The lot sizes that they're proposing with their application is comparable with the lot sizes in all four of those subdivisions. Actually, the average lot size in this Ellis Garden is larger than the average lot size in the other four developments that are listed there. And you can see the setbacks that were established at the rezoning are pretty much the same as what the setbacks are for the other residential developments, Sky Crossing, Cedarwood, and what Bridlewood is proposing. So what they're proposing with this application is not outside of what we've done over the last 5-6 years, and it is compatible and comparable with those developments. So to go over this specific plan, they're proposing the main entrance to be off of Swigert. And again, the applicant stated, and I'll show a little bit more detail on the changing of the location of that access point. But the main access point will be off of Swigert Road, and then four and four additional access points that will feed into the existing neighborhoods to the north and to the west. Again, on the right is the proposed access point. When it went to Planning Commission, you could see if you were a car exiting that, you could see where the headlights could shine onto that neighborhood house or that neighbor house across the street. And this updated application that's in your packets and for your consideration shows that to be slightly moved to the south. And that kind of is a little, here it is as an aerial relative to the house across the street. And this is just another view where you can see the green is where the updated access point is shown opposed to the red. So that did shift it over to where the pine trees will help shield those headlights. Just a little statistics on the lots that are proposed. Again, 96 single-family residential lots and 7 open space lots. And then they have throughout the roads that are proposed in the development about 1.9 acres to be dedicated as right-of-way along Swigert. And then the rest of the acreage to be dedicated as internal access roads. Those roads are proposed to be built to public standard with curb and sidewalk and gutter, and will be turned over to the city once they're constructed and inspected by the engineering department. So they will be public roads. The setbacks that were approved at the rezoning, just wanted to restate those, that there's a 30-foot front yard setback for all lots. 35-foot rear yard setbacks, except the lots that are along the northern property line at abutting the R1A have the 50-foot rear yard setback, and the ones along the western property line have a 40-foot rear yard setback. There's 5-foot minimum side yard setbacks, except no house can be closer than 15 feet to each other. So if one house is right at that 5 foot, then the house next to it has to be at least 10 foot off the property line so that there's no house within 15 feet of each other. And then if one of the lots along the northern or the western property line abut an existing residential lot, then there is a 10-foot side yard setback on each side. One thing that's also included, and it's an exhibit attached to the motion, is that everywhere you see in green will be needs to be marked as a no grading area during the grading of the properties to preserve the existing trees. And then once the lot is sold, then the homeowner will be responsible for taking care of those trees. It's just a grading limit, not a green space easement or any kind of conservation easement. I know the city engineer is here to talk a little bit about the transportation improvements proposed with this application.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, members of City Council. Just very briefly, there was a traffic study completed in conjunction with this development. They took peak hour counts in the morning rush hour and the evening rush hour as well. They did that at the Darst and Redwood Boulevard intersections at Darst and Stutzman and Swigert and South Fairfield. So they got the three intersections closest to where this development is going to be. Again, they did peak hour counts because that's what you're concerned with if you're worried about backups of traffic, those types of issues. What they found was that adding the traffic from this development to existing traffic, we still kept a level of service A or B at all those intersections. And for what that's worth, you rate the delay at an intersection on a scale from A to F, with A being the absolute best and F being the absolute worst. So seeing that those intersections are level of service A and B means that there's not really any big backups there. The traffic is flowing pretty well at those intersections. The traffic study did not recommend any improvements, but in speaking with the developer, they agreed to add a left turn lane into the main entrance off of Swigert, a right turn decel lane into the entrance. And they've also agreed to pay for the reconstruction of the very sharp curve on Swigert, just I believe to the north of the new entrance there. And part of that, for what it's worth, we've had 20 crashes on this segment of Swigert Road in a 3-year period, and 7 of those are right in that very sharp curve. So getting that fixed is a benefit to the traveling public, very good benefit. And again, just a little graphic. This is a curve with a proper radius to give you an idea of how that would lay out. And I should mention the property in the middle with the pool. There's already land available dedicated for this roadway, where there would be some right-of-way acquisition on the property on the far left side of the curve there. Thank you.
This project, as with any projects that we've done over the last couple decades, they're required to detain their stormwater on site to ensure that the post-development runoff or the speed at which the water runs off can't be any more than it is currently. So what they're showing on the site is a retention pond, so it's going to be a wet pond. There is a proposed condition that requires aeration devices and fountains to be added in so that there's the water doesn't get stagnant and become a breeding ground for mosquitoes. And so that's a condition that is added to the proposed motion. They show landscaping along the Swigert Road right-of-way. There's a slight change from what they're proposing because they're showing it in the area on this particular plan. In the area they're actually dedicating in right-of-way, and we don't want landscaping to be in the actual right-of-way. So we're proposing, and the final landscape plan will show it being moved back onto the common area and outside of the public right-of-way. There's also a requirement that there be a tree for each individual lot, and that I drew that in on this landscape plan, and the final landscape plan, should this move forward, will reflect that and show the individual trees on each individual lot. As the applicant stated, there's two sets are two collections of homes they're proposing with this in this development, one being the designer series and one being the masterpiece series. Both offer 1 and 2 story home options. There was a requirement that, and this is similar to the requirement that was over at Beavercreek and Amberwood, that a single story, the minimum footprint or the minimum square footage of the house be 1,700 square feet if it's single story, and a 2-story be a minimum of 2,500 square feet. And those don't include any of the garages or porches. And those numbers were based off of looking at the houses within half a mile of this neighborhood and getting the average of what a single story was and what the average of a 2-story was, and continuing that average. The applicant has stated that the from price, or what they'll be posting it as, is from about $500,000, and for the designer series, the anticipated sales price would be $615,000, and the average of the masterpiece series would be around $850,000. The applicant showed some of these architectural plans, so I don't want to go through them too much, but these are some of the designer series, and these are some of the masterpiece series. You can see that they're using a variety of architectural styles and elements and materials. There is a condition that masonry products be on all 4 sides of the building, that aluminum siding and vinyl siding can't be used, can be used as trim, like for fascia or some of the front porches and things like that, but not any of the actual siding itself. And there's also a condition that if there's a walkout basement, that the material used to build the building, so if it's brick or if it's the board, a hardy plank board, then that continued down the elevation until you get about 18 inches from the ground, so you don't have a 6 or 8 foot concrete wall in the back. So that condition is there as well. They're proposing an entrance sign off the main entrance, and that'd be just to the north of the entrance. We don't have any condition, or don't have any actual measurements of the sign, but they gave a conceptual. We propose a condition that it be no more than 8 feet to the top of that pergola above the sign, and the way it can create a line of sight hazard. So the actual location has to be set back far enough to where when you're trying to pull left out of there, you can see past the sign and be able to make that, or turn right or left, be able to make that turn safely. Just a few of the select conditions in the motion for your consideration. One is that the exterior work hours be 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday. Once they get the house under roof and the walls up, then they can do plumbing and carpeting and things like that on the inside. But the exterior work, including roofing and framing and grading and all that, those are the work hours that limit that. Another condition that chain link fence be prohibited throughout the development. Again, the pond have the circulation and aeration devices. Any wells that are out on site must be closed under appropriate ODNR methods. Also, no construction traffic through the existing neighborhoods. We want to make sure that the trucks that have the dirt on the tires, things like that, don't go through the existing neighborhoods, but have to use Swigert Road as their access point. And one condition that the Planning Commission wanted to add was that no parking for the construction traffic. The workers can't park right along Swigert Road and cause line of sight issues along the roadway. They were seeing that at some of the other developments. There are 33 conditions in the motion for your consideration this evening. Planning Commission and staff recommend approval of the applicant's requests. All their proposed plans meet the requirements set forth in the rezoning and the requirements set in the RPUD section of the zoning code. So thank you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions following the public hearing.
Thank you very much. This is a public hearing, so if anyone from the public would like to come up, please state your name and address. You have 3 minutes. Unless someone else would donate their 3 minutes, you can get up to 9.
Hi, Felicia Reinhardt, 3805 Maple Grove Lane. The first thing I wanted to bring up was that I know Mr. Burkett brought up that there was confusion at the January 8th meeting. If there was any confusion, it was introduced by Mr. Burkett by saying that repeatedly shutting down the public and the council when they talked about lot sizes and setbacks. So, and we were basically shut down at every measure. Every single person that came up here and mentioned lot sizes and setbacks was shut down because we were told that's the site plan phase. You shouldn't even be looking at this site plan, so that doesn't count. The other issue is, I don't know about those other developments and what is adjacent. I know that this one is adjacent to two neighborhoods that are, I think they're 1A or 1B. I'm not sure the sizes. But I think that actually is an argument against continuous approval of these because it's changing the character of the city. And it really shouldn't be that we jam all these small lots into the interior just to get to the right average. I think that we have to consider what's right for the city. And I don't think that these tiny little postage stamp lots are right. And as I said, I don't know what is in those specific neighborhoods, what's surrounding it. I also note from something that came up at the Planning Commission about the traffic studies. When you're talking about accidents over, I don't know if it's a 3-year period, but if that includes COVID years, I think you have to throw that stuff away. Because, we know everybody was home during COVID. So we need to maybe look back a little further back or forward and focus more on that. So, and I don't think, I wasn't at that specific meeting, so there's other people that will talk. I just watched it after the fact. But I am concerned that what was voted on in the January 8th meeting was not, and then put into the resolution was not what the residents here understood. I think there were also council members that asked questions that indicated that they were on the same page with the residents. So it just feels like there is something afoot here to, and I brought up today about the mailing not getting to anybody except through my mailing. I asked everybody on my mailing list. I'm in the 500 square foot perimeter. If I didn't email Ms. Haynes and ask for the date of this meeting, I would not know about it because I didn't get the mailing, as did nobody else that I see. Nobody else that normally gets the mailing. So I mentioned to her about tabling it because I don't know if there's enough people, and there was certainly a lot more people at the original zoning meeting. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Hello, Dave Sopchek, 3536 Swigert Road. So I wanted to come up here today to express my concerns regarding the recent discussions on rezoning and some of the dissemination of that information. As you heard from Mrs. Reinhardt, it's kind of been inconsistent. It's gotten better on brand as more people have started to question it. As you saw today, I appreciate Mr. Burkhart putting all of those specific things in there, the things that we've been calling out, but alas, we are at the last meeting, right? If it gets approved today, it's approved. I find that to be really ridiculous and disrespectful to the members of the community like myself who have come here to every meeting. Even at the last planning meeting, the commission wanted to make recommendations and they were told that they could not make those because of the rezoning actually that had happened. So their hands were tied. We're here now again today. We're asking, and your city planner was really nice to, I think he cautioned you on making any decisions today because you've already made your decision. But yet when we asked in other phases, it was, well, you got to wait till you get to the next phase to ask those questions. Now you're here, the last meeting, and you're being cautioned to make any decisions that could impact the development of this community. And so I think as a person who's very invested in our community, obviously as you all are, because you're here, you run for these seats, you're very invested in making sure that we have a proper community growth and things like that. I think that that's very disheartening through the process, and I struggle with it as someone who's been here every time to see it kind of falling apart and failing. With that being said, I've come here with a consistent message every time, and I am still pushing for us to reduce the speed on the street. Mr. Moorman has stated that this body only needs to vote on it to reduce the speed to 35 miles per hour, and I would implore for you all today, if it's possible, to vote for that. If all it takes is a vote, I don't see why we should delay, and I think that we should vote to reduce the speed on Swigert down to 35 miles per hour. Last meeting, we came here, the city actually used data from 3 years ago to kind of make decisions about this. Last week, they did do a traffic study, and like I said again, here we are, last phase. City, your community has no opportunity to review this data, understand what's going on, and we're making decisions that I think are just very haphazard and not with the well intent of the safety and the community. Last thing is we talk about the road development. This community, I imagine, will have sidewalks at the end of Swigert. Before you get to the last 2 5-acre lots that come into the curve, the sidewalk ends. And I would also like to see if the city would also, while doing the road reconstruction, would actually look at connecting that sidewalk into this community, because we have lots of people who run by, we have lots of people who walk by, we have kids who are biking on Swigert all the time, and it does end. So it would be nice for them to be able to just bike along and go back into these neighborhoods and kind of be out of that traffic. So I know that's not something that I've seen considered or really talked about, but would be interested in if the community and the council here would put that up for a discussion topic. With that being said, thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Catherine Howard. I live at 3766 Mesquite Drive. I'm about 4 houses in from the main thoroughfare that will be in this development. It looks like I might be the last one of the over 70 neighbors that Alicia and I communicate with regularly who are concerned about this issue to talk about it tonight. It's very sad that we've come here to a last meeting. When we came to this first meeting, we were told we weren't allowed to discuss a lot of topics to the MUS meeting. Both previous people had touched on that. And that's wrong. That's just wrong. You really need to, in my opinion, go back to the beginning and start over. So I would like to make a motion that you rescind the RPUB for this particular lot, that you decide to make a motion to change it back to a residential 1A or residential 2, because that's in line of what's surrounding this community in a 5-mile direction. That's what the heart of this community is. I moved to this rural community because of that, not to live in the middle of a postage stamp. If you have a house that's literally on a 0.9 acre, do you realize how many square foot that is? That's like 82,000 square feet. That's literally a quarter of 1 floor of City Hall. That you've got everything. If you're going to put a tree on there, it's got a 20-foot span. That takes away a third of your property. You've got a garage. That takes away another chunk of your property. You've got a backyard. They're trying to sell this beautiful community, Ella's Garden. You don't have room anything but a bush to put on this property. This is not a garden setting when you have so many tiny postage stamps in this community that they're building. So I would like you to consider tabling this whole entire thing, going back to the beginning, now that you're all more informed, now that the community is really on board, because we are ready to take it to the next step. No one else has said it to you to your face. It has been mentioned, but there is a class action lawsuit that is being considered against City Council because we feel like the wool has been pulled over our eyes. And just because other communities in the area are accepting these tiny footprints, these crammed-in neighborhoods by developments that want to make $100 million doesn't mean we're going to take it. Doesn't mean we're going to accept it. Doesn't mean we should have to. So that's the way I feel, respectfully. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Rebecca Griffith. I live at 2925 Whitewater Court, 3705 Swigert Road. And I will say that they should reduce the speed limit. There are accidents in front of my house all the time. In the last 6 months, we've had 2 bus accidents injuring Beavercreek City Schools children. Okay, yeah. And they're from heavy trucks passing, moving trucks, dump trucks, passing a school bus on that road. So they probably need to slow it down, maybe widen it a little bit. The other thing that bothers me is that the houses coming down from the second curve is about where I live, and they're not going to have much of a setback from the road. And so I'm going to be looking at the back of their houses. I didn't buy that house across the road from them so I could look at the back of somebody's house. So even though they're putting up a tree per lot there, or maybe a few trees, they should have big trees, big evergreen trees there, so it blocks my view. And I wouldn't think they'd want to look at the road either. I mean, if you're going to build, that's what you guys are talking about, at houses up to 900,000, what, $500,000 up to 900,000 on these lots that are closest down here on Swigert? Why would they want to have houses like right up against the road and not have a barrier there, an aesthetic barrier to make it look better? So, and I agree. I've been at every meeting, and everything that these folks are saying about the controversial statements about lot sizes and setbacks is true. And so I think that should be considered. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Ashley Dahl at 3721 Swigert Road. I was at the January 8th meeting, and I remember during that meeting, we were not allowed to talk about the roads, the school districts, which nobody's mentioned today. So I would just like to put my 2 cents in for that aspect of it. If we're going to have that interior area so small, there's going to be a lot more kids. We already have trailers at Fairbrook. When my 5th grader gets there, or when my 4th grader now gets to 5th grade, she's going to be in a trailer. I don't think Fairbrook has any more room for any more students. This neighborhood's already going to add a ton more children into that. They're going to go to Fairbrook. That's where they're going to go. Ankeny is also not very big, and it is very old in comparison to Coy and Trebine. I just don't think that it's fair to overcrowd our students and our staff with more kids from 96 houses. If you could make all of the lot sizes on that interior part the same size on the exterior, on the northern side and the western side, that would probably make more people happy instead of having those post-stamp size houses. I agree with the speed limit. I live 2 houses down from Becky, and the school bus that got hit was right in front of, almost in front of my house, and I helped the driver that morning, and the kids get off the bus, and a kindergartner got hurt. They were freaking out. It was terrible. I also would propose that all of those that live on the Beavercreek Township side have our mailboxes moved to our side of the road. I play Frogger already on a daily basis to check my mail, and I think that would also, I don't know, for safety concerns. I can't see around, I can't see over the hump. Then there's a curve beside Becky, so I can't see from that. And then I've got traffic this way, which is fine, I can see that, but there's a lot more traffic on that road than an A or B, whatever was stated about the stop signs and how fast it takes you to get through the intersections there. It's not an A or B. There are times that you wait way longer than you should for the fact that we're in a township area. So I would also propose that the mailboxes on Swigert, on the Beavercreek Township side, be moved to our side of the road. That's not something that I can do on my own. Also, when I go to check my mail, especially right now, if you go drive past it now, there's poison ivy all over the place. At some point, Rob Stanton some people on Beavercreek side got an email or a letter stating that they were no longer going to maintain the ditch on Swigert. Well, it's taller than I am now, and that also affects our mailboxes. I can't get to them. But I do believe that you should reconsider the lot sizes on the interior lots to make them more consistent with what's on the outside edge based on the school district. I don't think our teachers or our students should be overcrowded. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Judith Klein, 3797 Maple Grove, and I just want to reinforce that those houses on the inside are basically large apartments with garages. They are really not big enough, and the lots aren't big enough. And it's going to downgrade our entire neighborhood. So I wish you'd really reconsider.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll close the public portion of this meeting. And council input. We'll start with Mr. Curran.
Follow up on those, in this new addition, new development here, what kind of garage access is there planned? Is it the same kind of a model where there are four houses have one driveway, or is it different? Anybody answer that from the developer?
Hi, my name is Amanda Webb. I'm with Fisher Homes. The garages, each home will have their own 2-car at minimum garage, 2 or 3-car garage.
So there wouldn't be the four?
No, sir. Each home will have their own individual garage.
Each one would have their own garage?
Correct.
And the access would be from the street?
Correct.
Okay.
All right.
No. Yes. Everybody will have their own individual driveway.
In the new area?
Yes.
Okay. Second question I had, Randy. I had a couple complaints from people on Southway. I know this is a very tender and explosive issue because it's the singular access into the older neighborhoods. But that's the only road available, right, for the fire service to come in?
No, you're talking Southway.
Yeah. That's the.
Bearing, sorry.
That's the only road fire service would use, or was just automatic because of the city's policy on having open access to?
Well, it's been our intention, historically, to interconnect neighborhoods to discourage people from having to go from one neighborhood to the next by you having to use a main thoroughfare. So the interconnectivity of neighborhoods has been something that we've been encouraging. We did with
separate from the fire department.
Well, the fire department, there's in our subdivision regulations as part of the fire safety that you're not supposed to have more than 30 homes with only a singular access point. And so with this first phase, they'll have the secondary access point to the north, and then with phase 2, they'll get a secondary access point to the west, and in phase 3, they'll have the other 2 access points. So each individual phase will also meet that standard.
Well, they were complaining about additional population driving through their neighborhood.
Sure. It's one of those, it's just interconnectivity is something that we've always pushed.
Yeah, I
from a
understand.
planning standpoint to cut down traffic on the main thoroughfares. And it also goes both ways, where existing residents will be able to use the new neighborhood to get out. And we found out with the newer neighborhoods we put that have been built over the last several years that the existing neighbors are using the new neighborhood to get out to the main thoroughfares as well.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Councilman Literal.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a question for you, Randy, before you go. The setback minimums, when you talk about the setbacks, are you talking about from the curb, or is that from?
It's from the right-of-way line. Where the setback is, the right-of-way line is basically the back of the sidewalk.
Okay, the back of the sidewalk.
So you have,
okay.
And at the last meeting I said 4 foot, it's actually a 10-foot tree lawn behind the curb, and then you have a 4-foot sidewalk, and so then behind that sidewalk is the beginning of that 30-foot.
And just because I don't know why this confused me, walk me through again in the recommendations. In the recommendations that you present, I read through all of them. One confused me, and you covered it for a little bit ago. You said if a home is within 5 feet of a property line, the house being built next door would have to be a minimum of 10 feet?
Correct.
So there's a minimum of 10 feet behind some homes, between some homes?
It's a minimum of 15 feet between the homes.
Okay.
So if one house uses 7 feet, then the next door has to be at least 8 feet.
Okay.
So the combined of the 2 side yards that are adjacent to each other have to be at least 15 feet.
Okay. All right. And the the second I'm sorry I didn't catch his name that came up. He asked a really good question. Subcheck. I liked his question, and I was a little surprised I didn't catch it. On Swigert, there is a sidewalk that ends right in front of the new home that was just built in the curve. Is there any plan in the calming of that new curve that's going in there to extend that sidewalk? Was there any discussions on it at all? Or?
I can let Mr. Mormon speak to that. I mean, that's more of a right-of-way project.
Okay, all right.
Yes, good evening again. We didn't have any plans to extend that sidewalk as part of the curb reconstruction. The length of the project is not really going to connect anything. So when we build a walk, it's oftentimes better to have a logical terminus for the walk instead of having it out there. But if that's something City Council desires, we could always look at including that at budget time to do something like that out there. But in the current estimate right now, we didn't have an intent to extend that sidewalk.
Okay, that softening of that curve there, is that going to include curb, or is it just roadway?
It would just be road. It would match the rest of Swigert Road.
Okay.
As far as side road ditch. We would have a better shoulder than what's out there on most of it, but it'd be side road ditch.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Public
I
input is over. Thank you.
There is a sidewalk there is a sidewalk and curb that runs down Swigert all the way up to that location though, right?
Yeah, heading
There.
back to the east there, I believe.
Yeah.
Correct?
So will this softening of this curve, will it affect or cause those individuals over there to lose sidewalk?
No, we would put back anything we take out, and it wouldn't be too bad to try to extend that walk. But again, if you extend it around the curve, you spend a lot of money, and you really just help out the one gentleman in the big house there to the north get connected. But
That's kind of the way it rolls sometimes.
Yeah.
But I would like to possibly discuss the lengthening of the sidewalk down there.
Yeah, that's what we can certainly
We
do.
would definitely.
Absolutely.
I think it's important,
Yep.
important aspect. And thanks. That's
Sure.
all for it. The only other thing, I do remember us discussing briefly about the speed limit on that road, and I'm not sure the process, what we need to do here tonight to talk about that, but I would like to recommend the lowering of it whenever it comes up, time to 35 miles an hour on Swigert. I think it's a good idea. So, that's all I have, man.
Speaking of that, what is the speed limit out there? I'm just asking if anyone knows. 40. Is it 40? So you're looking to drop it by 5? I'm sure that's the case, but even in 25s they do it. So I just wanted to know what it was. So thank you, Councilman Schwartz.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have my questions in an organized fashion, so I'm just going to apologize for that. One of the questions I have is for the developer, and it's the differentiation between the masterpiece versus the designer collection. And as I understand, and as was presented in your presentation, the designer collections were intended to be in the internal lots, and the masterpieces are going to be in the external lots. Are the internal lots large enough that masterpieces could eventually fit onto those lots, or are those homes too large to fit onto those lots?
Jennifer Gonzalez with Fisher Homes. The footprint of the masterpiece homes is quite a bit larger. Also, the options that are available in those homes are quite more extensive. Typically, with the masterpiece, we're talking people are able to add $150,000, $200,000 in options. In designer homes, in designer homes, they are typically adding around $100,000 in options, and so it's a little bit different of a price point. And then also the footprints of the homes are much larger. So you would want Masterpiece on larger lots, and you'd want the designer to be on the smaller lots so that the community looks good. We pride ourselves on making sure that the community looks nice, and so we fit the homes to fit the home sites.
So there would never be an instance where a Masterpiece would go on those interior lots?
There wouldn't be a possibility to do that. The Masterpiece footprints are going to be too large to fit on those designer home sites.
Would there be any opposition from the developer to add that as a condition of approval, that those Masterpiece don't go on those interior lots?
I wouldn't have any issues with that.
Okay.
How about vice versa, too?
Well, I don't know that I would want to do vice versa, because if they want to put a designer, a smaller home on a larger lot, I don't think that there's any issue there. I just don't want a monstrosity sitting on a tiny lot. No. Well, there's that. The other question I have is for Randy. Thank you, Mr. Burkett. Can you briefly talk about this one tree per lot? We've discussed this in previous developments, and we went back and forth. Who's responsible? What if it dies? What's going to happen with it? We're requiring them to have it. What's the process?
Sure. Well, before we release any kind of site or record plan for each section, they would have to post a bond for the amount of the cost of the landscaping with the city. And then as they install the landscaping, we can reduce the bond by the amount that they install. With the individual, with the majority of the landscaping being on the common area, that's going to have to be maintained by a homeowners association as part of their responsibilities between that and the pond and the other common areas. The individual trees on each individual lot, we used to call them street trees because we put them between the sidewalk and the curb, but now the damage that does to the sidewalks and the street and the trucks that go along there, we now have them moved back into the individual lots. They're not in the right-of-way. They're on the individual private lot, so if they die, then they'll be ultimately up to the responsibility of the homeowner to replace them.
Do we have similar concerns? Because it's kind of the question that I was alluding to, is we're just moving them inside, but are they still close enough that they're going to destroy the sidewalks, and the sidewalks are going to have to be replaced because we're requiring the trees to be there?
We can add a condition that they be a certain distance away from the sidewalk so that they're not. And I'm planning on, if this goes through, taking the landscape plan to the tree board to get their recommendation on final species, to make sure that the right root system is in place and it's the right species, native species and things like that. And it works well with the development and doesn't cause long-term damage to the area.
Okay. Let me make sure I don't have any additional questions for you. The connection of the sidewalks and the speed limit, I echo the comments of Councilmember Littoral. I think that those are things that we should be addressing. I know that we're not going to address them at this specific site plan phase, but I do think that it's something that we need to consider at a future meeting. I'm not sure who can answer this question, but I would like clarification on the mailings. I'm highly concerned that no one here received a mailing or notice of this meeting. I probably should have started with that, but it just was on my list lower, in my unorganized list. So I'm not sure who can answer that, but I would like the city's response, please.
When were these mailed out?
They were mailed out before the 10th of May, when I scheduled it to go into the paper, the same notice in the paper. And I got a copy of everybody that it was sent to. This is a copy of the actual label list that were used to mail them out.
First class?
And, I'm sorry?
First class?
Yeah.
What pitch?
First class.
First class.
That's 3 days. U.S. mail. 3 days. You can know that.
Well-
Friday, we got it today. Didn't happen.
Well, we all know there's some problems with the mail. I'm not saying that's what's happening here, but I just got something back after 6 months that was out there. So, I mean, we can't deliver the mail. We love to be able to deliver it and get it right, hand deliver it, but we can't do that. All we can do is send it out. Well, where do we post all of this?
It's on the bulletin board, it's on the website, and it's in the newspaper. That's the
Well-
only one we have.
What is the requirement for mailings, please, Steve?
Okay, yeah, I was going, well, I'll address that, because I believe the clerk certainly made an effort to mail them. I'm not sure what happened. I think the post office probably did something, but you know, our code does provide, and that applies to this section, it specifically is, and this isn't, unfortunately doesn't address the lack of mail notices going, but the failure of delivery of notice, so long as not intentional, does not invalidate a public hearing. So procedurally, it doesn't. The fact people are here also weighs against the fact that there's lack of notice. But unfortunately, what happened with notice, I don't know. That Ms. Haynes handled that, put the notices out, used the mailing list.
But my question is, what is the requirement? Is there a requirement for them to be
By regular
provided?
mail.
By regular
Requirement
mail?
of regular mail,
And
yes.
within how many days?
15 days.
She mailed it the 10th.
It is 500 feet.
But it is 500 feet also, yeah.
And the same individuals who would have received notice of the planning, do they receive notice of planning meetings as well?
Yes, yes, they should have. Yep. It was, be the same list, unless we got notice somehow that somebody had moved.
Right.
But otherwise, and they would probably still, within the time frame, still just go, but yeah. You know, I can't explain what happened through the postage. I just know the requirements have to be done.
I'm concerned that no one has received notice. It seems bizarre, whether it's the mail or whatever the circumstances. It is concerning to me that no one within that area or that radius has received notice, and they've received all of the other notices in the past. I don't know what the potential remedy for that is, other than tabling. It's something for all of us to consider, so that all of the residents are able to voice their concerns. I think that it would be the fair thing to do, but that's where I stand on that issue. One of the other questions, I believe, came from Ms. Howard, who asked about rescinding the zoning. Can you touch on that, please, Steve?
In order to do that, since this is administrative action, you would have to go back to the legislative action, which was initially the public hearing was January 8th, and you would have to repeal it. First you have to repeal that, and then you then need to do something to zone it back to something in the future away from what it was. Property owner have every right to come back and do something with it. But that would be procedurally. That ordinance went into effect, second reading, first public hearing the 8th, 2 weeks later, second reading, 30 days later, ordinance. And that was the zoning aspect. This is the SSP.
And what would be the repercussions of repealing that ordinance?
Repealing it, I think you'd have to have some legitimate reasons what to do with it, and then I think you would be right back to also, the applicant would have every right to have it rezoned right back. So you'd be back at the, most likely the same spot. Because they're entitled by law to file for a PUD, which is zoning, that's what they did, the two-step process.
And I have one more question, Steve.
Sure.
Can you please address Ms. Dahl's concerns about the schools? I know we discuss this frequently, and taking the overcrowding of the schools into consideration in any of the decision-making that we make here, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, you're right. The school is a separate legal entity, and we control the city, the school. In Ohio, some states have cities control both, but Ohio is not one. So that is a separate jurisdictional entity which we have no control to do things with them. We can't tell.
He's stating the law, and the public
Wow.
input is over for right now. He's stating the law. That's why he's here, to let us know what the law says.
Okay, the last question I have is for Mr. Mormon. In addressing the curb, is that how we would fix the curb if it was something that we would take on as our own internal city project?
As far as the treatment, as far as like curbing versus storm sewer versus side road ditch, or?
Well, both.
In
design and in
Sure,
terms of.
Sure. Yeah, there's a given design criteria. If you have a given speed limit on a roadway, there's a minimum radius of curve that, would meet the current design standard. What you see there is the smallest curve, given the two tangents coming into the curve, the speed limit. That's what we would need to meet the minimum design criteria that's used by civil engineers across the entire country. If we probably did a project like this, this is would be a good standalone project actually, because we have a pretty good crash history in that curve. It's sharp. It doesn't meet design criteria. As a safety improvement, I think this is something that we would have on the books, I think, at some point. The only issue is a lot of the work we do in the city, it's reliant upon getting grant funding. All of our big projects, they're heavily reliant upon grant funding. Swaggart Road has a lower average daily traffic, which kind of hurts us when it comes to scoring for grant money. So it would be very difficult to take our typical route, get grant funding, and build the improvement, where this would likely have to be 100% city funds if the developer wasn't going to pay for it.
Okay. And then in terms of sidewalk, curb?
Really we can look at extending that sidewalk. That's not a big problem, I don't think. It'd be a minor change. I could take it around the curb where we tie back into existing and stub it out for a future project. That wouldn't be an issue.
Okay. Thank you. I think that's all the questions I have for now, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilman Dewar.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to thank you all for coming out again tonight. I know for many of you, you've been out several times, so thank you very much. I know it's time away from family, and especially with those of you with young children, it's much appreciated in terms of the feedback. It's always very helpful. Second, I share Councilwoman Schwartz's concern over the lack of public notice. I think that's deeply concerning to me, too. I think that Clerk Haynes has done everything in her power and has worked with professionalism as she always does. But unfortunately, the notice did not get there, and that is concerning to me. Third, question for legal counsel in terms of order of how we think about reducing the speed limit along Swaggart. What are the steps if enough members of council are in favor of such a move?
I think the first step, and I will defer to the engineer on this, but I think the first step would be to do a speed study, not so much a traffic study, but I think a speed study, which Mr. Mormon could certainly do, and have a recommendation based upon that, dependent upon what the speeds are, and then couple that with the accident reports. And at that point, I believe there is a provision, and I don't recall it specifically from the code, but I believe the city engineer then can make a recommendation for reduction.
Can I ask a follow-up question to that?
Please, yep.
Is the speed study necessary?
I think a speed study would help support the reason you're reducing it. I'm not so sure it really is, but it does provide documentation, because there's always, part of it also, if anyone were to challenge a ticket in the future for driving over the new speed limit, it is good to have justification for that, so really helping the prosecutor. Because I don't want tickets thrown out because a defense attorney argues that we don't have the documentation to justify why it was reduced. So.
Thank you.
I mean, I have a little doubt. I'm sure people are driving too fast. But if they get a ticket in the future and you reduce the speed, I want to make sure that the ticket sticks.
Thank you. Anything needed from the township?
Well, that's something we're going to have to look at in terms of, I mean, I asked at one point and was told that the road is all in the city. Now, if it's not, then we're going to have to deal with that. Or at least the portion we can control.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Mr. Sobchak, Mrs. Griffith, and Mrs. Dahl have been here consistently and have asked for this change, and I'm fully in favor of reducing it to 35 miles per hour. I'll go a step further and say we need to consider additional traffic calming mechanisms as well, because people will speed regardless. And so I can hear it in Mr. Sobchak's voice, because he's mentioned having young kids, and I think our kids play in the same soccer league. I think, and so to have kids playing out there on that curve, I get the same heart palpitations in my own neighborhood, and I think we really need to start the process, and I'm fully in favor of that. And if other members of council agree, I would like to do that. In addition with, again, other traffic calming mechanisms, I think just little things can be done to force people to go a little bit slower around there, because if this is approved tonight, this becomes a much more suburban area, and I think necessitates a lowering of the speed limit. I'll certainly go through the process as laid out by legal counsel. I think that's important. But I'm fully in favor of reducing the speed limit. Question for Mr. Burkett. I think we talked about this at the January 8th meeting. Just to for my eyesight, all of the roads are 27 feet. Is that correct, as planned?
Well, the roadway itself, I believe it's 26 or 27 feet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Except the main entrance, I think, has a little bit wider.
Okay. Just to double check, the Township Fire Department has looked at these plans. I think I have concern with the Verdure Circle area. That's in the middle. And I'm thinking in particular of emergency vehicles and school buses to go through there. Has that been checked by the Township Fire Department?
Yeah, when we get the initial application, we forward all the plans onto the fire department, to the Greene County Sanitary Engineering to get their input if there's any on water and sewer capacities. We send it to utility companies, our engineering department, and have a joint developer meeting to go over any comments or questions or concern, and the fire department was on that list. Their concern was they were brought up fire hydrants, to make sure that there was fire hydrants in the appropriate locations, and wanted to ensure that there was appropriate access to get that emergency vehicle in terms of secondary access points. But they looked at the plans and ran their template, and I didn't hear any concerns about
Thank you.
maneuverability within the development.
Yeah, in real life, in other neighborhoods throughout Beavercreek, if people are parking on the street, it becomes a real headache for people in that neighborhood. And what I'd say to the applicant again is, you have some stunningly beautiful homes and a very strong reputation around here. There's a danger of losing that if it doesn't work out. If the neighborhood is too small, if the lot sizes are too small, as has been brought up by a number of residents, it's the type of thing where a strong reputation can be lost just by jamming in too much. And I know you have the right to do it. It fits under the zoning code. You fit in terms of the acreage per dwelling unit, all of those things. But I think I'd again encourage looking in particular at that area, the designer area, because when I look at the designer homes and I consider the add-ons, the Blair goes in excess of 3,700 square feet. The Grand Inn goes in excess of 3,800 square feet. The Foster is almost 4,000 square feet, and that's the designer area. And we know that the lot sizes are smaller there. You could have theoretically a house that fits a massive amount of the acreage given. And so, again, I know you fit under the zoning code, but I would highly recommend looking at that again, because if someone comes in and says, I want a Foster because I'm looking at it here, it's beautiful, and you add the add-ons, it's 3,980 square feet, and it could be upwards of 6 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms. And that's just a lot in all of that, so something to consider. My final question is one of the, sorry, I'm blanking on the term, one of the recommendations is Monday in the build is Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. through 7 p.m. In the winter months, it gets dark around 5. Are you proposing additional lights that people can work, or are you willing to have work, complete until sundown or something along those lines? Is there just anything that the residents should expect, understand, knowing that there is the condition, the word came to me, that you can work until 7 p.m.? Would the applicant like to address at all? And I can repeat the question. I know there's a lot in that too. Happy to do that, and forgive me.
Just to clarify, are you suggesting that like during the winter months it's just dawn to dusk?
I'm just asking what you plan to do. That's
typically, I think we would propose the 7 to 7.
Okay.
I'm not sure that would. I don't see us having the heavily exterior light. Are you familiar with that?
okay. So if it goes dark at 5, work would be done probably.
And that's just for the exterior, so I would
Yes,
imagine
absolutely.
that would
Interior
be
is very different. So.
correct.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Those are my questions, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Vice Mayor Bales.
I guess along that line, I want to remind council that this is the time to put that condition in.
Right. Yeah.
If we want to make it 5 p.m.
5 o'clock in the wintertime.
From November to March or whatever it might be. Otherwise, it's written down and that's the law.
Right.
So I have a bunch of questions, and they, like Councilwoman Schwartz, they're kind of all over the place. I want to thank the developer for putting in the turn lanes. That was a big help because of the danger on that road. And I also want to thank the developer for agreeing to modify that curve, because I think those are two big safety issues. Along those lines, is all of the right-of-way acquisition taken care of by the developer as well? In that, you showed a corner piece that we didn't have right-of-way on.
Around the curve?
Yeah.
I mean, that would be part of the estimate. They're going to provide an estimate on the cost of the construction of that. And so right-of-way acquisition would be where we need it on the curve. It's going to be included in that estimate.
And the developer's willing to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And is that written in the conditions?
Not the right-of-way specifically. So, I mean,
But
the
I guess
project
the
itself.
entirety of the curve.
Yeah, the straightening of the curb project is spelled out in the condition. So, I mean, we can add as much detail as we want to that, but yeah.
Well, again, we probably need to do that now.
Right.
If we're going to do that.
Sure.
clarify it so that, we're all on the same page. I don't want to get into this and have the developer, not that they would, say, well, yeah, we'll pay for the asphalt, but we're not going to buy the land associated with it. You know what I mean?
Right, no, I get it.
Okay.
Vice Mayor, can I ask a question? Is the land, who owns the land right now?
Not the developer, it's a third party.
So the city will have to buy it. I mean, by law, the city has to buy it.
Right, yes, the project we'll get an estimate of the project. It's going to be a city project.
Okay, so the city will acquire the right-of-way through eminent domain.
Right.
I just want to make sure that,
We're getting an estimate of the cost of the project, and
Okay.
then they're going to provide that funding to the city, and the city's going to do the project.
So, question for the developer then. Would you consider sidewalk as a part of that curve?
Yes, we could look into that. That would be part of our estimate, but,
Okay, perfect. Let's form a condition. Thank you.
and that's just in the area that's being widened,
Can you
correct?
get
Yes.
to that?
Just want to clarify that.
So, yeah, I'll tell you what I had on my mind here is that it ends, looks like it ends right here.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's covered up.
So I'm thinking,
Our property is right there. We
Yeah.
would- yes.
So, I mean, why not connect to your property? It might be a great amenity for your residents. That's
We'd be
what I
open
was
to that.
thinking. Okay.
Is that a yes, you can do that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify.
I know we've talked about this also. Mr. Mormon, can you please explain how we change the speed limit?
Sure. City Council's done it various times over the years. Sometimes things will come up, like I know we changed the speed limit on US 35 where we had a little speed trap for a while where there was a 50 zone in the middle of it where we increased that to 55 to match everything around it. But Ohio Revised Code, they set minimum speed limits for different classifications of roadway throughout the state. For this particular roadway, the minimum speed limit will be 35 per the Ohio Revised Code. Council would need to approve an ordinance to reduce that speed limit. And as Mr. McHugh mentioned, I did promise a speed study when this first came up at the zoning stage. And I have about all that information together. I was kind of waiting to see what happens with the public improvements and the approval. And, if council would want to see it, I'd be happy to forward it. But per state law, I don't think it's required for council to approve that ordinance.
So I guess just as a matter of discussion amongst council, if the ORC allows us to reduce that to 35, and a speed study is not really required, maybe we should just consider an ordinance at the next meeting.
I don't disagree
I'd
with
support it.
I think the engineer you've already done pretty much the speed study, right?
I've done a lot of it. I was just
Yeah.
kind of waiting to see what happens with, because
Yeah.
changing, taking care of some of these safety problems kind of can impact it, so. But yeah, we can certainly do that if council would like to
Yeah.
see an ordinance next meeting.
I don't think we
could-
can do
we
it
could
next
draft one.
meeting. We might have to go into the next month because of timing, but
I'd say at the next available opportunity,
Sure.
yeah.
that'd be great. Thank you. I'll probably have more for you, but let's see. To the developer, will there be neighborhood access to the pond? The green space?
It would be, that area would be maintained, so you could access it through any of those 3 access points, through the cul-de-sac, through in between those homes. It would all be green and maintained by the HOA.
And
Are you-
Yeah, and so that it's not prohibited, the neighbors can go there, they can enjoy the pond. There's just not a ton of green space in this
Sure,
neighborhood,
yes,
so.
that's correct. So if you wanted to go in, like, one of those little open space areas and toss a football with your son.
Okay,
yes.
all right, great, thank
Yes,
you.
It's all owned and maintained by the HOA.
Excellent. Mr. Burkett, can you explain, or maybe it's a co-explanation between you and the developer, the 1 tree per lot? Is there a landscaping plan that we could see that shows, I don't know, 1 tree just seems kind of sparse.
Yeah, I mean, that's the standard that we have in the subdivision regulations, that any new neighborhood have 1 tree per individual lot. I mean, the landscape plan was more focused on the landscaping along the perimeter, along Swigert Road. I'm going to be clicking around if I look for it, but it focused more on the landscaping along Swigert Road, and we just added the condition that, including that, is the requirement that they have the 1 tree per lot based on the subdivision regulations. And they're also required to maintain that 25-foot no-cut zone during the, no grade limit during the grading to keep the existing trees along the perimeter as well.
Okay. And Ms. Webb, yeah, Ms. Webb, could you address your landscaping package?
Yes. When we submitted our landscape plan, we submitted it just for the open space area. Fisher does have different standards for each of our lots that include we include 2 trees per lot.
Okay.
So I spoke with Mr. Burkett previously because I realized there is an error on our landscape plan. So as he had mentioned, I believe it would go to the tree board, so we would send a revised landscape plan in.
Okay. So you would be okay if we put a condition of a minimum of 2 trees?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And
2 yard trees, lot trees.
2 trees?
Oh, no.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
in the yard.
that's fine. I mean,
No street trees.
somewhere on the property?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So just for clarification, could we do 1 in the front yard, 1 in the backyard? Would that be
Yeah.
acceptable to council?
2 is better than 1. Can you talk about the landscaping plan along the right-of-way? How tall will those be? Do we have set minimums?
In condition number 10, it's more, rather than height, it's about the diameter of the tree itself. And at the time of planting, they have to be at least 2.5 inches in diameter. It's usually a 7 or 8 foot shade tree. If they have pine trees along the frontage, then those are typically, when they're planted, they're 6 feet tall.
Okay, thank you. We talked about that. Mr. Burkett, you had in the beginning of your presentation, I think Ms. Howard brought up density, and she talked about, I guess, wanting it all to go back and maybe be all R1A. It was even before this, I think, where you showed the neighborhoods.
Give me a second here.
There we go. So they're all low-density residential that surround this.
Correct.
Which calls for a minimum density of 3.01.
A maximum density.
Pardon me. Maximum density.
Correct.
Of 3.01. So I guess the risk that we would run into if we were to start from scratch and this become just a traditional R1 zoning is that they could build 3 units per acre. And right now they're only proposing 2.
If they went to the traditional R1A, it's 20,000 square foot minimum lots.
But it's larger lots.
But it's larger lots, but you would, On those, that would be a straight rezoning, so the ability to negotiate for a second tree, to have the sidewalks, to have they wouldn't
The
do
other
the,
amenities. All right, that helps me clarify that. Thank you. This is a random question.
Sure.
Mailboxes on one side of the street or the other on Swigert? I mean, can we request that from the post office? I have no idea. But I mean, that's a great safety concern.
that's, that one's beyond me. That's something we can look into.
Yeah, a jurisdiction can request it, but ultimately it's the post office.
So maybe could we write a letter, or could we, I mean, I don't know how we'd get consensus with neighbors. I mean, I understand.
I don't think anybody would care if they were on.
I don't want to dictate to the neighbors really, but I mean, it's a good concern.
There's only two neighbors on, up to the Mirabal house, and then the older farmhouses there beside the Mirabal house. Those are all on that side, but so with the rest of Swigert. But then the rest of that, we're all on the township side because they're purchasing all of the other side.
I don't know how.
We could speak to the township and see what they're.
I'm sorry?
U.S. Postmaster in Columbus would be controlling that.
Yeah, I could figure out who to send it to. I'm not sure that it should, if it comes from the city or maybe a co-authored letter or.
If
I
they
have
want to
no
move it
idea.
from the city to the township, I mean, we'd have to look into the procedure.
Well,
It's not something I've ever worked on or
me
done
neither.
before, so I'd have to speak with the engineer on.
I mean,
What?
it's certainly worth looking into.
But the homes are in the township, right?
Correct.
So their mailbox is in the city.
Correct.
And I've driven down there, and I recognize your issue. I mean, I noticed that the other day. I said I would not want to go across the street and get my mail. So, but that's something I think we can probably
That's something we
at
can
least
look at in a separate.
send something separate than this. But it's something we definitely should look at, because I think that's definitely a safety issue. But all we can do is ask. I mean, we can't force anything, but all we can do is ask, and we will do that. So.
Okay, yeah. I think the last question I had, maybe Ms. Webb, you can address this too. Councilmember Dewar talked about the Foster model.
Sure.
And how large it could get. Will there be some lots that you can't build that particular model on, or other,
It's very possible.
Yeah.
Sometimes we run into that when we get into our easements, or, we have a water line looping that happens. So sometimes that does happen, and we go through all of our lots individually, internally, and we recognize what we can and what we cannot put on those.
Okay.
So
All right,
it's
so you'll be
an
able to-
internal thing that we are aware of. That way, if a customer comes in and wants to build that, you have to be on this lot or that. When, it helps us control that.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm,
That's
absolutely.
good clarification. Okay. I guess the last item is what we've kicked around before, is about the mailing. I would be open to tabling to the next meeting and allowing another public hearing, if that's the desire of council as well. That would maybe also give us a chance to write all of these different conditions that we've talked about tonight, to be a little bit more clear. I think we're, quite frankly, in my opinion, I think we're pretty close, but I want to make sure that all of the people have notice. So that's all I've got for now.
Mr. McHugh?
Well, council does have, we need to be cognizant of subsection K, which requires a 158.066, which is the requirements here, 45 days. So the decision of planning was on May 1st, so we want to make sure we keep within that 45-day period. Council could have we'd have to really do either a new hearing, which you might also consider opening it up to those individuals who did not testify. And since this is not, I don't think we have to comply with as long a notice period with the next council meeting, because, this would be a notice of this continuation to, I believe it'd be the 10th, right?
Yep.
So it would be continued the 10th to provide, to take testimony, open up to take testimony for, we know who testified tonight, and so you could take testimony on individuals who did not testify because of this notice situation, which we have no knowledge or no way to explain. Yeah, I would not table it. I do a motion to continue it to allow a new notice to put out another mailing to notify individuals, everyone, and to provide those who did not testify an opportunity to come testify.
Would that have to comply with 14 days notice? If they went out tomorrow?
Well, that's what I'm saying. We're continuing it. We're not setting a new public hearing. We've already had a public hearing. Technically, a public hearing's been closed. So you would have to, council would have to, on motion, reopen it because it is closed. And my suggestion is you would take testimony for individuals, as as some of the owners have said, there are people who weren't notified, so those would be the individuals to provide a notice. Everyone will get notice, but those are individuals to testify, should they choose to.
So if we were to do that, it would be a motion to continue, not table.
I'd recommend continuing, yes. Mm-hmm. Continuing to a date certain, which would be June 10th.
So I have some real concerns about the notification myself. It's, what happened, I don't know. I cannot begin to even imagine, because I trust that they were sent out. Where they ended up, I don't know. But the fact that you did not receive them really bothers me as well. And then I think we've listed several more conditions tonight, and I'm hoping that people are keeping track of those, and that we can continue with this if that's the way we decide to go. I did have one question that I wanted to bring up, though, before we go too much further. And I think it was to address your issue about looking at the back of the houses. I know there's going to be landscaping around Swigert, and I think we said it was going to be what size? I mean,
2.5-inch calipers.
I know height-wise, you probably don't have it. You're 2.5 inches, but
Well, the standard is for shade trees is 2.5 inches at diameter at chest height, and then for evergreen trees it's 6 feet.
okay.
6 feet tall planting.
So I mean, could we look at maybe? I don't want to overpower that area right now, because I know in 5 or 6 years it'll be really bad. But
And there's the higher you go, the less likely the survival rate of the some trees. I'm not saying that it's impossible for an 8-foot tree to survive. It's just, and then they have to be, when they're planted, they have to be further apart.
okay, it was just a question.
Sure.
Because I wanted to address
It's a give
that,
and take.
if
It's
we
kind of
could
a
do that.
balance.
So.
Well, a shade tree won't block the view, from my purpose, for anybody who's sitting on that stretch of road, to all those homes over there. Because now an evergreen wood is substantial enough, or if they set up some other type of fence.
Yeah, I would like to look at your landscaping there to see if we could maybe do a little bit more with that. If you could take a look at that. I agree. I mean, of course, once it's grown, it's going to really look good. Once those become mature, they really add to the neighborhood. So, all right.
Mayor, for procedure, since council's debate this, would it be and to help staff, I think it might be helpful if we could have a motion of council and the two conditions that I'm aware of, and that's why and these would be added into a revised motion to come forth before council on the 10th, would, one, to add a condition dealing with the curb and the developer providing funds for both to fix the curb and to install a sidewalk as part of it, to provide the funds for both that. And I know that it needs to be cleaned up a little other than fixed, but basically to re-engineer, to have the re-engineering and construction of a upgraded curb, we'll call it that, plus sidewalk. Including right-of-way, yes. So that would be one, and these could be one motion if you want. The other one is, there was discussion of having the masterpiece homes on specific lots, and I'm not sure, but the applicant in one of their early slides they distinguished the larger lots by color, which I think equates to the masterpiece. And if they were to put that back up, you could see what I'm talking about. But those would be those lots, which from here I couldn't read the numbers, but those would be the lots that are intended for masterpiece. Is that what council was requesting? I just want to make sure we draft.
Oh, and I was going to add, do we want to do the Monday through Saturday, 7 through 7? Do we want to amend that in any way as a third condition in terms of exterior build?
And the fourth condition was a minimum of 2 trees per lot.
Yep.
And 2 trees.
What was that, Monday through Saturday?
7 through 7 as written, I think it's condition number 1, but what concerns me is dusk in the winter.
How about something like 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., well, or dusk.
Or dusk till dawn.
How about dusk to dawn?
Well, that's going to extend the
Well, but
summer
that
hours.
extends the summer hours.
the other
It's 7
side.
a.m. to 7 p.m.
The
or
one-year-old.
dusk,
Thank you.
whichever comes first.
Yep, we can do that. Yeah.
Yep,
I mean,
there you go.
it's hard, but we understand what we're trying to say, we just can't get the words out.
Yep, thank you.
We will take a look at the landscaping and try to come up with the best solution there. I'm sure there's a lot of different opportunities, but we want to take a good look at that. Because if this goes through, we certainly want it to be a good-looking facility for everybody involved. I mean, it's going to help them sell their homes, and it's going to help you as neighbors with the aesthetic part of it. So we will definitely look hard at that. Now, we will look at it, so we will definitely do that.
Okay.
Councilmember Dewar, I do have a question for you. We were discussing the masterpiece versus the designer, but it seemed as though you and perhaps Vice Mayor Bales may have had some concerns with these larger designer homes being also included in there. I don't know if that's something we also want to consider, if that is a condition that we're going to be adding.
How would you word it, or how would you?
I'm thinking the side path will really negate some of these larger homes being put on there. If you have to have 15 feet between homes and you have to at least 5 feet in, would negate some of the bigger homes being on the smaller lots.
15 feet isn't very much.
Maybe I misunderstood. Your motion was for no masterpiece homes to be built on designer size lots. So no big homes on the smaller lots.
Correct.
Right.
And I think what Councilmember Dewar had pointed out was some of the designer homes are still relatively large.
But as I followed up with Ms. Webb, they internally as a company will tell the customer,
We can't do that.
that is not appropriate for this lot, it won't fit. So we won't sell it on that lot. We'll show you this lot where it will fit, or we'll show you a different.
I guess my thought is if we're adding conditions to make sure it doesn't happen in the future, perhaps that's something that we consider.
I think setback requirements will prohibit
Yeah.
all of that.
I guess,
Okay.
And I
I guess
think
that's
I
why I
would-
was referring to their exhibit, which depicted
Correct.
where these large homes will go.
Right.
And I think it's pretty clear and their homes are, if we're going to include them, if you're going to do that, I would suggest that their Exhibit B, page 13 through 27, are the examples of large homes. So that those would go on their exhibit of the shaded lots.
Yeah, well, and just
That's
based on
fine.
our discussion
Yep.
with the developer, I mean, I don't want to put words in their mouth, but I'm not sure that they're going to sell a masterpiece home on a small lot just because it won't fit anyway. But I'm okay with the condition.
Certainly. I just wanted to ensure that Councilmember Doerr's concerns were addressed.
I appreciate that, and I'd go back to the developer and say, reconsider that internal area simply for bus drivers, emergency vehicles. Again, you have a really, I'd call it a stellar reputation in Beavercreek. There are some outstanding homes in some parts of the northern section of the city. Jamming too much in there and making life difficult for the residents who buy in at $615,000, it can erode that. So if we do extend this and have another meeting, maybe look at that section again, consider it. Again, I know you fit under the zoning code, but it just, living in a circumstance like that where we do have one tree on our lot, where it is 10 to 15 feet between us, there are issues that come up, and we live in a set of homes from a different developer, and that reputation has diminished. And I've seen that firsthand. I'm not going to name the developer by any means, and I'm very happy with my home in general, but there are issues in the neighborhood. There's so much for the HOA to figure out. So just a reconsideration of that. I'm not going to put in a condition at this stage. It's not, I don't think legally I have the opportunity, but I think I'll implore you to take another look at that, a fresh look. So, thank you, Councilwoman Schwartz.
So if I understand you correctly, Mr. McHugh, you are recommending we do make a motion to and specifically spell out the conditions tonight.
Correct. Yeah, not that if you reopen it, you're going to have a further deliberation and ultimately make a decision. Not that you can't think of something else, but at least we would have a basis from tonight that we can work from. And council on the 10th can certainly tweak also these particular conditions if they're not drafted the way specifically you want them. But at least I'd like to give staff some guidance there.
Okay. So I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we add the following conditions to the specific site plan. A minimum of 2 trees per lot. No masterpiece homes are permitted on designer size lots. The developer shall include a connection of the sidewalk from the existing terminus on Swigert Road to the edge of their property. And work hours shall be Monday through Saturday from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. or dusk, whichever comes first.
And might I add to the third condition that includes the right-of-way, the acquisition of the right-of-way?
Right. Thank you.
And my understanding also the cost of the,
And the developer agrees to pay for all associated curve improvements, right-of-way, and sidewalk.
as improved by the city, it'll be the city job.
And at this same motion, can I move to continue to the next meeting, or should that be two separate?
I would make it.
2 motions.
Make that separate.
We'll make it a separate motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to add 4 conditions. 4 conditions to the site plan. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we will get those added.
And then I would motion to continue this hearing until June 10th.
Second.
Okay,
With the opportunity for.
Yeah, with the, to continue the hearing until June 10th, and that public notice will be re-provided to residents, and those residents who were not able to speak today will have the opportunity to speak at the June 10th meeting. We will reopen the public hearing for those residents who were not present today to
only for
speak.
those residents that have not spoken.
Correct.
Yes. Okay. I have a motion and a second to continue this meeting with those stipulations until June 10th. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We will continue it until June 10th. So,
Okay, good. All right.
all right,
Need another piece of paper.
yeah. Next item, public hearing, Durnbaugh, current agricultural use and value, CAUV. This-
Resolution 24-14, resolution by the Beavercreek City Council authorizing the placement of 30.0202 acres of land owned by WD2 in the agricultural tax district, said property addresses being
Hold
1428.
on, just a minute. Please, ladies and gentlemen, we're trying to conduct a meeting. If you could keep it down and walk out in the hallway, please. Unless you want to stay, you're welcome to stay. Thank you.
Resolution number 24-14, a resolution by the Beavercreek City Council authorizing the placement of 30.0202 acres of land owned by WD2 in the agricultural tax district, said property addresses being 1428 South Central Drive, 1430 South Central Drive, and 3605 Dayton Xenia Drive, Beavercreek, Ohio 45432. Parcels B42-0002, -0014-0-0056-00, B42-0002-0013-0-0054-00, and B42-0002-0-0015-0-0015-00 in accordance with the ORC Chapter 929, the Farmland Preservation Act.
Thank you. That was good.
Good job of it. Yes, we received an application from WD2, which is a limited liability corporation that owns 3 lots. You see highlighted here. This is just west of City Hall. City Hall is just right down in that. You can see us on the far right there. But this has been a CAUV for several years now. The ORC requires them to reapply every 5 years, and so this is that reapplication process. The application that they provided states they attested that it is currently a CAUV and that the land is more than 10 acres and 10 acres of it or more are devoted exclusively to agricultural production or devoted to and qualified for payments for other compensation under land retirement or conservation program under an agreement with an agency of the federal government. So they've attested that they meet those requirements. And again, this is just a continuation of an existing CAUV for another 5 years. There's a resolution in your packet that is recommending, staff recommends approval, and the resolution in your packet, if passed, would continue that program for, again, another 5 years for these 3 properties.
CAVU is undergoing some changes to make it more
Mike?
supportive.
I mean, what it does
for the
is
taxpayer who has that kind of land, too.
It allows the opportunity for the owner to afford to continue to keep it as it is,
right.
rather than as a highest and best use tax category.
Thank you very much. You did both the applicant and the staff,
I
right?
am both because, yes, I am both.
Okay, very good. This is a public hearing, so if there's anyone here that would like to speak to this, please come up to the microphone, give your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
No, they don't have to.
Seeing none, I'll close the public portion of this, and council input?
I don't have anything.
Do I have a motion?
Your Honor, I'd move the approval of Resolution 24-14, Durnbaugh.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve this request. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Very good. Ordinances, resolutions, and PUDs. Ordinance 24-8, update stormwater ordinance, second reading.
Got two together. Ordinance 24-8, an ordinance by Beavercreek City Council repealing the current Chapter 154 Stormwater Management of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Beavercreek and enacting a new Chapter 154 Stormwater Management to the Codified Ordinances of the City of Beavercreek.
Do we have staff for this? No changes?
Mr. Dewar is a sponsor there.
Mr. Dewar?
Sure. Motion to approve ordinance 24-8.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 24-8. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. That's approved. Ordinance 24-10, charter administrative changes.
Ordinance 24-10, an ordinance accepting the Charter Review Commission's recommended administrative changes pursuant to Section 13.08 of the Charter and finding the recommended administrative changes are not substantial changes to the Charter.
Mr. McHugh.
Yes, Mayor and Council. As Council is aware, we had a work session on this. The Charter Review Commission went through the charter, found some edits or just minor editing changes, and there's a typo here and there too. And it added some captions so that it'd be easier when you look at the index to tell what a section was about further on. And so under your charter, you are allowed by Section 13.08, if 5 members of council agree by ordinance, you can make changes that are not substantial. They have no real substantive, they're not substantive in nature. In my opinion, none of these changes are. And when you look at the exhibit, there's nothing that changes the wording or substantially would affect people's rights. These are really trying to make some improvements to captions so that it's easier to, when you look at the charter, and you're not, from the city, easier to find things. So that's the point of this. They had, the commission had administrative, and then they have some more substantive. Those substantives have to be voted on. So we had to carve those out. Those are not in there. These are merely things like adding topics, and we tried to, one thing too, like city municipality or city manager, sometimes it was city manager, sometimes it was manager, and they felt, let's just pick a term and use it. Same with the city. Sometimes it was City of Beavercreek, sometimes it was Beavercreek, sometimes it was city, pick your term, be consistent. And those are two of the changes that were applied in a number of places.
Okay.
Thank you. This is an ordinance, so there is a public input on this. If there's anyone out there who would like to address us on this, please come forward. Seeing none, I will close the public portion of it. Anything from council?
Your Honor, I'd move to ordinance 24-10 to second reading.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to move ordinance 24-10 to a second reading. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Same sign. Resolution 24-15, moratorium of 6 months on permits allowing adult use of marijuana.
Resolution 24-15, a resolution by Beavercreek City Council imposing an additional moratorium up through and including December 31st, 2024, on the acceptance of applications for the issuance and processing of any permits allowing adult-use cannabis operators within the city of Beavercreek, Ohio.
Thank you. Mr. McHugh.
Yes, another one here. This one, the moratorium is expiring, and so the intent of this, and about a week ago too, the state came out with the regulations. So this is still a developing. This is definitely a developing process, and so it was felt that it would be well to continue the moratorium till the end of the year, so we just have a fuller picture of this particular situation. This deals with recreational marijuana, and so that is the intent of this. Extend it for another little over 6 months, year end, and that I would not expect it to be continued beyond that. And we may very well, council may recommend repealing it in a few months. But right now, between now and September, I think there'll be more defining of this process, because applications and licenses can be applied for, I believe, starting June. And so I think, we just need to have a better handle on this.
So is a resolution, anything from council?
Will we have the opportunity to make a permanent moratorium if there is under home rule?
We can only make a it's not a moratorium.
I guess
we actually adopted
Yes.
as required. The council has already adopted the prohibition that was provided for in the law as adopted, right? But I also know that the Senate and the House are working to make changes in it. We don't know what those changes will be. I don't know how those changes will affect that law, because this was a law. This wasn't a constitutional. So they have the right to change it. And one of the things is, I'd like to make sure we have enough leeway, should they make some changes, that we can react and change our code. But right now, we have enacted we are as restrictive as we're allowed under the current law. But that is always subject to change.
Right.
They can change the law. Correct.
They can change the law, that's right. Anyone else? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve Resolution 24-15.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 24-15. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution 24-16, GCCOA Vehicle Grant.
Resolution 24-16, a resolution authorizing submission of an application for the Greene County Council on Aging vehicle grant.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. Each year, the Greene County Council on Aging sets aside funding for the purchase of a senior center transportation vehicle for one or two of their members. This year, they have set aside funding and made that available for the city of Beavercreek. We can apply for up to $40,000 in funding. Staff has received a quote in the amount of $86,108 for a new transportation vehicle. The $40,000 grant would be used in addition with the remaining $46,108 coming from the Senior Center Growth Fund, which has a balance in excess of $88,000, largely in part to an anonymous donation we just received in about $52,000.
Wow.
So this would be an additional vehicle. So this would give us 6 transportation vehicles in our fleet. Would allow us to run 5 regular routes as long as we had all of the volunteers, allowing for one vehicle to be used as a backup in the event of a breakdown. We currently run about 9,000 transportation trips annually. This would allow us to increase that to about 11,000 trips annually. So I'm seeking approval for us to apply for this grant this evening.
How long will it take to get the bus back?
If we can get this approved and apply for this grant by June 10th, we can get that bus this year.
Oh,
that's great. Yeah, that's good.
Have the bus on order this year, and then the upfitting it would come later this year or early 2025.
Yeah, it's nice that it's an additional bus, because I know you guys are strapped over there with that, so. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, council, any other input?
Move to approve Resolution 24-16.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 24-16. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Go buy your bus.
Thanks.
Yes. Liquor license. Chief.
Good evening. I have two of them before us this evening. The first one is it's a new permit for the Sheetz gas station up on Colonel Glenn Highway at 4215. They're doing business as Ohio Springs Incorporated, doing business as Sheetz. Division of Liquor Control sent us notification of a request for this new D1 liquor permit for the Ohio Springs Incorporated, doing business as Sheetz number 855, located at 4215 Colonel Glenn Highway. They are a large company, which the state calls them a master file, so no shareholder or personnel or personal history background forms were sent for us to complete, and there are no concerns with this permit request, and we are recommending the application move forward without comment.
Motion to accept without comment the new liquor license for Ohio Springs doing business as Sheetz.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for Sheetz liquor license. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? B, liquor license.
Yes. So the second one is it's a liquor permit transfer. The location is at 4362 Indian Ripple Road. It's the BP station. Again, the Ohio Division of Liquor Control sent us notification of this request for a transfer of a C1, C2, D6 liquor permit from Ruckfam Enterprises Incorporated, doing business as Indian Ripple BP, to S&P Food Mart LLC, doing business as S&P Food Mart. And again, both locations are at 4362 Indian Ripple Road in our city. The records checks required by the Ohio Department of Commerce Division of Liquor Control were completed on the applicants and shareholders, and there are no concerns. And again, staff is recommending this application request move forward without comment.
Motion to accept without comment the liquor license transfer from Ruckram Enterprises, Inc., doing business as Indian Ripple BP, to S&P Food Mart LLC, doing business as S&P Food Mart.
Second the motion.
I have a motion and a second to approve this liquor license transfer. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Decision item, first quarter financial report. There he is. Thought you left on us.
Yes.
Not yet.
Pete, if you could serve that up. Normally, I just have you go through the first quarter, the summary. I thought this would be a good learning exercise to talk about how the reappraisals affect our first settlement for the city. Basically, if you look at it, what we were always saying all along the way was the reappraisal, although it increased the property values citywide, the voted levies did not increase in revenue generation. So again, what you did see was the inside millage. We did get additional money, and this relates to the first settlement, so there's 2 per year. But you can see that originally we've got 2022 payable and the 2023 payable in 24. And the difference was about $200,000, 22.3% increase. But then the voted levies, again, what happens is, this is a perfect example, is that in a reappraisal period, what happens is that the county auditor reduces the effective millage rate to the point where we obtain the same revenue that we would have gotten before the reappraisal. So again, this illustrates it perfectly. In the police, the streets, and the parks were all voted levies, and we got the same amount. It's showing a negative up there because that's the actual amounts, but that was really due to a delinquency by one of the utility companies that didn't pay their taxes on time. But the bottom line is that shows you that, again, with the reappraisals, it did not increase the revenue for the city during that in that first settlement. So again, I don't know, Pete, if you got the next one, or, yeah. I had another slide in there that actually showed the reduction in the millage. So again, what you're not seeing there, say the police, the 4.5, that's their largest millage. The effective rate was 3.71. After the reappraisal, that rate got adjusted down by the county auditor to 2.91. Again, that rate is reduced so that the city continues to get the $6 million it was getting before the appraisal and after the appraisal. So I just wanted to show you that relationship. So again, a lot of people were afraid because the property values went up 24%. And that's what people saw. That was the headline. And again, they were equating that to the city's going to get 24% more in revenue. Right. And the only place that happens is in the general fund, the inside millage. All the voted levies are adjusted to get us back to that exact same revenue that was voted on originally. So just wanted to go over that because, again, it was a perfect example to show how that was coming up and how we got our first settlement and how that's going to play out for the rest of the year. The other highlights that I just wanted to go over with you real quick is the local government fund. Again, we've talked about that, and what the state did was they changed the formula, increasing the percentage that the municipalities were going to get, but they turned around conversely and decreased the amount that the funding gets from the general fund to the local government fund. So again, it was a shell game with those percentages. And I just wanted to show you that the net result right now is that we're down about 5% from last year. So again, they claimed it was a victory for increasing the allocation to municipal governments, but then on the other hand, they were trying to reduce the state income tax, so they took some of that money and kept it back in their coffers. So fuel taxes, again, what we're seeing is that the consumption's rising a little bit. Everybody doesn't think that the fuel prices actually went down, but they have when you compared them to a year or two ago. So consumption is up. People are out there traveling a little bit more, and so we are getting about 5% more for that. The Parks is doing a banner job again. Remember last year we talked about them setting records, and in the first quarter they've already exceeded last year's amount. So again, it goes back to the success of their current programming, and as we keep talking about the need for additional staffing for related to programming and getting more available staff to create the folks out there to help with the additional programming that's being demanded now by the residents. So that's a good sign. Golf operations, again, everybody's aware we had a great February and March. Normally it's been a lot more cold events and things like that happen. And so, again, they're already at 2,200 rounds. This is, again, for the first quarter, which is about 250 rounds more than last year, record-setting year also. So, again, with that comes an increase in green fees, cart fees, merchandise sales, food and beverage. Those are all up at that point. And then basically all the expenditures in the departments are running at or below 25% of the year completed. So the expense budget side looks really good, while revenues are increasing a little bit based on that criteria. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions?
I do have one. On page 1 of your interoffice memo under general fund revenues, on the first line, it says the city received 1.08K or 175K more. That's supposed to be 1.08 million.
Yes.
And I think on page 5, it is, if I just want to make sure I'm tracking this all correctly, it's 1.078, and you've just rounded up to
right.
1. Perfect. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, in the summary, I tried to keep it more specific on that detail page. It goes into a little bit more extension of the decimal points and everything. So.
Okay.
This is gone. Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
so just need a motion to, if you'd like to accept the report, that would be fantastic.
Any other input? Do I have a motion?
Motion to accept the first quarter financial report?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to accept the first quarter financial report. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I guess it's council time. Let's start with Councilwoman Schwartz.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I would like to congratulate you on a very well-done Memorial Day ceremony. The weather could not have been better, and I thought that the added touch on the folding of the flag was excellent.
Well, I will take credit for that, but everything else is the Parks Department. They put it all together. All I did was show up.
And thank you, Zach, and the Parks Department for all of their hard work. And I will have to also recognize the young man who led the Pledge of Allegiance, who did an excellent job. Sometimes Jack, sometimes Charlie. Not sure. I also want to congratulate the high school bowling team again for their back-to-back state championship. That's pretty amazing that they are the only Division I team to have done that. So congratulations to them, and hopefully next year we'll have our third, which will make it an even greater beat.
Turkey. Redo the
Be a
sign.
turkey.
Yeah, a turkey. Yeah, well. Oh, gosh. The other thing I wanted to mention, too, and I hate to keep talking about things that we've touched on earlier this evening, but I also want to extend my thanks to Mr. Jenkins, Mr. Graham, and the Beavercreek Softball League for their dedication to our community, for helping put Rotary Park back to its condition. And I also want to recognize that there were several other citizens who were reaching out and attempting.
Go along with that. Zach, could you come up here, please? I want him to say something
Okay.
that goes along with that.
There were several other residents and citizens who were trying to organize efforts as soon as it was posted, I will say, to try to fix that. And so, Zach, I'll segue to you. I had no idea we were doing this. This is great.
Yeah, so a few weeks ago I received an email from a mom of a 7-year-old daughter whose favorite park is Rotary Park, and she plays t-ball out there. And she was quite disturbed by the restrooms being vandalized. So she wanted to do some sort of fundraiser to help repair the restrooms at Rotary Park. So she had a lemonade stand and made bracelets that said Rotary Park, and she sold them, and she raised and donated this morning. Here's a picture of her. She donated $51.75.
Wow.
That will go back into the Rotary Park Improvement Fund. Just really touching, really awesome that she stepped up and did this at 7 years old.
Wow.
This is Margot.
That is incredible. And a thanks to Margot.
Yeah, I wanted to add that to what you were talking about because it just seemed to segue right in there.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Make sure you get her information to me because I'd like to thank her myself.
Will do.
Thank you.
Thanks, Zach. And last but not least, I wanted to provide just a quick update on the Region 14 meeting. We had our meeting today. Unfortunately, we did not have a quorum, so there was no official business that was voted on. But I did want to provide an update. So the applications for grants closed. Our region received the second highest amount of grant proposals, and we received 156. So of those 156, an update that was provided today, we're closer to the 140s, higher 140 range, because some of them were eliminated through due diligence type process where, there's duplicates, they didn't meet the initial requirements, those types of things. So around, I believe that number was 148, and they're still conducting those reviews. So our region has not yet seen what those proposals look like. However, a third of them were less than $100,000. So keep in mind, we have about $7.1 million for our region, dedicated to our region, and that is to last us for at least 2 years. So upcoming events we're going to have to be reviewing those proposals. We've designated a committee to review those, and then the entire board will have the opportunity to vote on which of those proposals will go forward for requested funding. So more to come. I would say there's going to be a lot more action within the next 2 months. And that is all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councilman Dewar.
Thank you, Mayor. It's been some time since we met,
It has.
so I'll try and keep this Short. I had the opportunity to speak at my home church, University Baptist Church, at a men's conference around the idea of sharpening one another under Proverbs 27:17, as iron sharpens iron, as one man sharpens another. And so that was over 125 men attended the conference, and just a privilege to be invited to speak and have that opportunity. I guess going back to the park and recreation volunteers, Zach, that was a very nice event at the golf club. The Chamber of Commerce had, again, a good event at True by Hilton. Always good to be out in the community, seeing how that's going. One of my favorite events of the year, Mother's Day tea that we had at the Senior Center. In tandem with the bowling team winning state champions, I'd like to acknowledge the women's softball team winning the GWalk championship for the first time since 2008. Having been connected with a number of softball families, this is a big deal. So I'd like to congratulate Katie Carrico for winning Public Relations something award, Spring Award, I believe, over the Springhouse Park. Nice notoriety for the city as well. And then I'd like to thank all the teachers as school ended. Just a tremendous amount of work and investment in our young people within the community. So a big thank you to all the teachers that often give so much of themselves. And to finally echo Councilwoman Schwartz, thank you, Mayor Adams, for leading the Memorial Day ceremony. Just very moving, and a lot of pieces that were together. So I guess a blanket thank you to so many. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Vice Mayor Bales.
All right. I ditto what everyone has said. But I'd also like to welcome REI to Beavercreek, since it has been a while since we've met in person, but they had their grand opening, and that was a nice ribbon cutting and opening. I got to attend the DDC fly-in with Councilwoman Schwartz and Mayor and the city manager, and I found it to be very interesting. It rained about the whole time we were there, which put a little bit of damper on it, but it was nice to visit with our federal legislators and also just a myriad of local elected officials that really shape our region. And it drew a lot of attention to our connection with Wright-Patterson Air Force Base and our national security. And so I found it a very worthwhile event. So I appreciate all of you allowing me to attend there. I also attended the Golf Advisory Committee last week or so. They are in the swing of things, just like Mr. Casera said. It's very busy at the golf course. They're about to embark on their clubhouse soffit repair, their bunker renovation project for this year, and their cart path renovation project for this year. So we'll see some real quality capital projects that will last a long time at the golf course happening this early summer. And then finally, I just want to take a minute to congratulate Zach White being appointed the Director of Parks and Recreation.
Right.
Very nicely done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilman Kern.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just a couple of things. Again, just to congratulate you and the Parks Department for a very moving Memorial Day event. It was just super. The weather was great. Number two, participated with the Flag of Heroes participation, which the Rotary puts on each year. Unfortunately, we did have that big wind night before, so had to get out. Some people had to get out. I didn't get out, but a lot of people did to put up flags. But it's just a very, very moving event. Lastly, had the opportunity to hear Representative Lampton with all the good news from the state legislature that he presented to Rotary, and it was a very, very moving and interesting discussion about the future and how the legislature is able to operate with two people that want to be Speaker of the House, and it's going to be a challenge. But just a few items. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilman Literal.
I have same as everybody said, the volunteerism in Beavercreek's amazing. I got to see your short news snippet also today. I remember when the tornado blew through here and all the people that were coming out, and it did it.
Well, they finally made it on the air, huh?
Yeah, it looked really good. It did a good job. It really kind of opened your eyes up to how the people in Beavercreek really feel about each other. It was nice during that time of so many problems for so many people. The Beavercreek bowling team is a big deal. It's something near and dear to me. My son was a big bowler all through high school, and they got to go to state. It was a good time. Good times. That was a long time ago, but great kids. And I'm going to keep it short and sweet. Back to you.
Thank you very much. Kelly, I'm glad you stuck it out. I noticed your wife left, though. Well, I attended pretty much everything that's been talked about tonight, and we do go back a ways. I was able to attend a couple of National Day of Prayer events during the National Day of Prayer. One thing that I really enjoy doing every year, and I try to do it, is I go out to the Greene County Fairgrounds for the World of Fair, and they have the naturalization ceremony for new citizens coming into this country. And this year they had 97 people from 42 countries that took the oath of becoming a citizen. It's always a moving experience. Judge Rice has been doing that, goodness gracious, a long, long time. He's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. He's still at it, though. That's good. I also, the REI, it was good to see them. The Mother's Day tea, I agree. That's one of my favorite things to do every year. Serving those ladies is really a fun thing. It's a good activity to be involved in. I was able to attend the Beavercreek Wetlands annual meeting. They have a great program. If you've not visited the wetlands, I highly recommend it. We've got some great wetlands out there, great walking trails that they've developed over the years, and I think eventually Spotted Turtle Trail will go all the way from Rotary Park up to north of Fairborn. So that will be a while yet, but they're working on that all the time. I was able to attend the Hamvention opening at Greene County Fairgrounds. This year they had over 35,000 people there from all over the world. It was amazing. We were able to speak with people from Germany, France. There was some people from India, Australia. I mean, they're from all over the world. I was also invited to speak at the Blessing of the Bikes at Kilcare. It's always a fun event because I used to ride. And there was, I think, well over 5,000 bikes out there this year. When they all fire up and start to leave, it's deafening. It's good to be there. And then yesterday, Memorial Day event, I was honored to do it. I want to thank Erin Harris. I mean, she did an outstanding job helping me put that together. When I told her about the flag folding ceremony, she wasn't sure what that was, but she said, let's get it done. So it really worked out well. And thank Vice Mayor Bale's son, Jack, for being there, Pastor Godwin, Colonel Muha did an outstanding speech. I mean, I was really impressed with that speech. And having the Band of Flight there, as we do each year, is always a really nice thing to have. VFW Post 8312, Beavercreek High School, Junior ROTC, they all added to the event of the day, and it was really a good day. And the weather really cooperated. I wasn't sure that it was going to, but it really did. So, and that's all I have.
All right, I'll keep this really brief. Just kudos to Katie Carrico on her award. I was there with her. This is the Public Relations Society of America Award, Gem City Award. So she did get it for her efforts and the publication and the media information that was put out about the Springhouse Park. So congratulations to her. That is a good award to have. I mean, absolutely. So I was so proud of her, and I cheered for her. So, yeah. And just a couple quick announcements. The summer concert series starts June 9th. That's before our next meeting, so I wanted to mention that. Sunday evenings, June 9th, starts our summer concert series at St. Dominic Lafino Park, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m.
So come join us at our first one, June 9th, with this Comstock, I guess that's Load, a classic rock and country western band playing your favorite hits from 60s to 2000s. Our city webpage, Facebook page both have a full list of the bands, but they're each Sunday night through the summer, starting at 7 at Lafino Park. Find out more information, check out our Facebook events page or beavercreekohio.gov. And, July 4th seems like a long way away, or it has. Now it's sneaking up on us now that it's almost June. So become a sponsor. We are still taking sponsors. If a company, corporation, or individual wants to sponsor, help sponsor the 4th of July and get your name and company plastered out there everywhere, please contact us. Also, companies, scout troops, athletic associations, all that. Join our parade. Get ready to paint the town red, white, and blue. There's a parade application to sign up, and most times it's very late sign-up applications, but we encourage you to go to our website and fill out the parade application. So you can visit parks@beavercreekohio.gov, and that'll lead you through. There's a special page on our website for the 4th of July that will lead you to all the information for the 4th of July. And other than that, that's all I have tonight.
Thank you very much. Citizen comments. Time?
You still have time?
Still up? We have plenty of time.
Thank you. Hate to be the last one on the agenda.
Please state your name and address. Please.
Sure. Jim Fountain, 1888 Rich Court. It was good to talk to our city engineer, Mr. Moorman, but this just happened yesterday since I was at your event. I'm a veteran myself, and all of us, I'm in Brentwood Estates, and it has to do with the sidewalk repair. So we all got notice. It's in the newsletter. I've read it. Every one of my neighbors in Brentwood have read it, and we know about the white paint. And then yesterday, we're getting ready to come down to the event, as you know, a lot of us did, and I was there. And this man and woman are running around Fairwood and Rich Court and Rich Road and Andrea Circle, and the woman's carrying this bag, and this guy is just slapping paint and putting X's. So I'm looking at my house, which has brand new curbs, ADA padding. He's got a big white X to put on it, and I thought, what is going on? Now, I've read all the material that the engineering department put out about the city repair, but we have all brand new sidewalks and brand new curb cuts, brand new ADA pads, and he's just putting white paint everywhere, and he's running to do this. So we're all starting to walk down to the event, and we know you're going to be there, and I'm going to be there, and all us veterans, we're all right Patterson one way or another. We get down to the event, we go through the great event, and it gets done, and half hour goes by, obviously, and we're now walking back. Sure enough, every 50 feet, there's a big blotch of white paint all the way down Farwood Road. And we get to Rich Road and Rich Court, every 50 feet, there's a block of white paint. It's like there was no rhyme or reason. He was just slapping it down. And I thought, this is really confusing, because we just saw him where we're going to you and the event, we're coming back, and it's done, and the woman and the man are nowhere to be found on Memorial Day, and we're reading this, and we're thinking, this just happened yesterday, that's why I didn't have a chance to tell you, and we're reading it says, if it's going to be repaired, it's going to have white paint, and you're liable. And so those of us like myself, I have a half acre, going back to what we were talking about tonight about lot size, I have a half acre. All of us have corner lots. There's a lot of corner lots in Brentwood. And we've all got these big X's on brand new curbs with the brand new padding. Everything's only like 4 or 5 years old. What is this guy doing? Slapping this white paint. So please put something on the website to say, if you're just indiscriminately going to replace all the sidewalks, even the brand new ones, you got to let us know, especially those of us that have corner lots, because we're really after yesterday, and it's just happened, because they were literally running up and down the streets slapping white paint on, and we're watching them running around wondering, what is going on? It's Memorial Day. So I'm really confused. I'm a corner lot owner, and I just have brand new curbs on my yard, I'm like half acre, and I'm looking at a brand new corner curb, because we all have corner lots with this big white X on it, and all I know is from the sidewalk thing that I now have to pay to have all this repaired, which was just done a few years ago. So I'm stumped, and that it was done on Memorial Day as we're walking down to the event. I'm really confused. So if you could put something on the website to let us know, I know we can't ask questions, something to let us know, what are you guys doing with this sidewalk thing? Because these two people were driving us neighbors and myself nuts watching them literally running up and down the street, slapping white paint on the roads on Memorial Day. Anyway, thank you for listening.
Thank you for
Last
the
one.
information. Mr. Mormon, did we have somebody out there?
No, I can answer that, no. Besides park, sir, you need to file a police report, because as far as I'm concerned, that's vandalism. So if you got pictures of the people,
Yeah.
because,
Well, no, because I had read this, so I thought it was them doing it for the city. This
No,
they were
no,
going up and down
no,
the street
no.
slapping white paint.
besides some parks and the police, besides parks and police, no, there's nobody out doing that. We're not going to pay double time, triple time for people to
Certainly not to do that.
To answer the question quite easily, is that when we mark them, we actually send public notices to those individuals that we have marked. So if you did not get a public notice, that mark is not from the city. Yeah, that, no. So
It
you,
all happened while we were
right.
at the vet
Yeah,
celebration.
so-
All of us in Brentwood, we all
so I
walked
can't,
down.
I can't imagine who's going around doing that, but that's, we'll investigate to see if
It
that's.
just was yesterday.
Yeah, so that could be a form of vandalism. If somebody was just arbitrarily and running around and doing that, I have no idea.
Instead of bothering Mr. Mormon, I'll talk to the
Yeah,
chief.
yeah, nobody has the right to mark up
Yeah, no.
right-of-ways and stuff with paint and everything else like that, so.
Especially when you come to an event that I run. I don't want you to have that worry.
So,
It was done while you were doing it because walking from
yeah,
Ridge Court, Ridge Road, and Fairwood to the park, they weren't there yet. But
Yeah.
by the time we left, all the white blotches were put on there. So
Yeah,
they
we need
put
to
all-
investigate that, find out
we
what's
we
going
have
on.
a website, on our website, we have about the sidewalk program, and again, all those that had their sidewalks marked, number one, that was months ago, and the list that we have available at the website, they would have received a notified letter stating why their sidewalk was marked. So yeah, thanks for letting us know. We'll
Just let your neighbors know that that was not us.
Yeah, that's not us.
Yeah.
No.
So confused.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you bringing it to our
Do you know?
attention, though.
Do you know why? Well, we may have an
We
answer.
have an answer.
It was not
It was not me.
Zach, now you just became director. You shouldn't be going around putting.
No, I was at the Memorial Day ceremony, but I was not doing that. So when I originally heard that, there's a running program called the Hash House Harriers, and what they do is they meet, and there's what are called hares, which is usually a group of one or two runners that will run out in advance of a larger pack, and they will leave a temporary trail using flour or other sort of temporary marking, and then that pack goes to try to chase them down. A lot of times they will have multiple trails or whatnot to try to throw off the other runners. Monaco is just looking up, and they had an event yesterday at Be Hope Church starting there. So it is flour or some sort of temporary marking. It should not be paint.
Well, the rain will come tomorrow, we'll take it all away.
Okay. But that's the explanation behind that.
I'm really glad you and Monica are here. And I know the chief is, because now he doesn't have to do it.
So it'll wash away, we won't, as homeowners, be responsible for putting in the sidewalk?
We hope it washes away.
There's a lot of white paint on the ground.
All right. Anyone else?
Thank you.
Anyone else? I guess we have a motion.
Mayor, I move to enter into executive session pursuant to Section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code for the purpose of consideration of the appointment, employment, promotion, or compensation of a public employee or official, and for a conference with the city attorney concerning disputes involving the city that are subject to pending or imminent court action.
Do we have a second? I have a motion and a second to move into executive session. Have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Schwartz.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bales.
Yes.
Councilmember Curran.
Yes.
Councilmember Dewar.
Yes.
Councilmember Literal.
Yes.
Mayor Adler.
Yes. There will be no action taken at this, so this effectively ends this part of the meeting. So you guys can go home.